translate.
Yes, so I'm really happy to present you our second webinar with SciComms Without Borders, which we co-organized together with 15 by 4 Munich and with Lecturers Without Borders. And this time is a presentation from Professors Without Borders, and I will let Caroline present herself and the project which she is driving, basically. So yeah.
Right, thank you very much, you both. Thank you very much, everybody, for inviting me and for giving me the time to present to you our project, which I hope is going to be of interest to all of you. So a little bit about me first. I don't have a scientific background unless you count social sciences. I teach international relations and international law at Regent's University in London. My PhD is in international relations. Specifically, I was looking at mercenaries and the use of foreigners in armies around the world. So as you can tell, it's a very different mode of research, although obviously also involving field research and in-person interviews. So right now, most of my day job is teaching and figuring out how to engage my students, who are all university students. Now, 5 years ago, I co-founded Professors Without Borders with two fantastic individuals, with Tessie de Luxembourg and with Magix Walker. And Magix is also an academic in law, and Tessie is, I think, also has a political science and PR background, and is essential to developing our programs with me. So why did we start Professors Without Borders? I used to teach at the London School of Economics in their summer school program, and that's a fantastic 3-week full immersion course that attracts students from all around the world. But it's an expensive course, so we attract students who can afford to do it. And in those 3 weeks, you see them really engaging and flourishing and getting an experience in the education sector that makes them want more. And I found that to be extremely enriching to the students and also to the professors. But it was also limiting because it only attracted the students who could afford it. So what we did with Professors Without Borders initially is to reverse that whole model. Instead of attracting students to the UK, we attract professors from around the world, and we send them to teach the students in their home institution. Now, so far we focused mostly on university students, because I think that the pedagogical approach for university students is one that I'm very familiar with, and I wouldn't say that the students in primary or secondary school need the same things. Ultimately, it's all skills focused, and the objective is to prepare students for successful professional careers through small classes, full immersion, exposure and access to a professor, and we're very activity-led and student-led. It's not didactic lectures. It's not what I'm doing here speaking to you. It's the students getting the teachers getting the students to communicate and be involved in the activity as the key process for learning. So this does a number of things. It creates an experience that would otherwise only be available to students who can afford it. So there's a certain democratization of higher education. Can you still hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yes, and let me know if you need, you told me, right, that you don't have slides, but I can share my screen with the website if you want.
Absolutely, and I'm going to post it also in the chat so everyone has access to it. So I'll do that in a moment. It's not necessary all at the same time. Let me see if I think if you're sharing your screen, though, I can't chat. Is that possible?
No, you can. You need to go
yeah,
bit up.
There we go. I got it. So we call this initiative Professors Without Borders. The reason we chose professors and not anything else is because professors is a word that can be translated into a lot of languages. It can be used in French, American English or English. And this concept is one that is a little bit more universal. So we don't mean just a university professor. When we're looking to recruit professors, we actually are looking for individuals who have expertise and passion, who are able to teach something because they care so much about it, and who share our value of focusing on the students and the students' learning capability. So our teachers go on the ground and they teach students, I'll be honest, it's usually middle class university students, because they already have access to university. So they already are in university. And the courses that they teach are quite varied, because we consider that the subject is the vehicle for developing the skills. So what I mean by that, if we're looking for students to flourish in a professional environment, we need to prepare them for that environment. And that's something that doesn't always happen in higher education. Skills like teamwork, communications, presentation skills. You might be fantastic at what you do, but if you can't communicate your ideas, if you can't problem solve and work in teams, it's going to be very difficult to be successful and thrive at that first job after your studies. So we try and create experiences for the students to put in practice and build those skills with feedback from the professors, using real world examples as much as possible. And courses, therefore, just a vehicle. So if you were to look at our selection of courses, you'll have everything from entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, which are actually very popular, communication classes, but also things like cognitive psychology. We had a fantastic course by a professor at Oxford who was teaching for us in Uganda on how do I know what I know. So there's a lot of things that we can teach the students, which will be obviously knowledge driven, but really are student focused to develop their skills and prepare them for the professional world. It's also a sort of reverse brain drain, because instead of attracting students abroad, we are bringing the teachers to them, which means that we are building capacity locally. And I think that's something that's really very important. One of the big failings of higher education is they tend to attract fantastic minds, but then the countries those people come from don't get to benefit from everything that has been achieved by that student. And so by focusing on capacity building locally, we're hoping to empower them within their own environments. This model works because, well, the summer school model has been tried and tested. You can see that from the London School of Economics. But also because professors, PhD students, professionals, especially the Gen X, millenniums, really like to travel. So they're quite keen to go abroad, to have a completely immersive experience and share what they have to share, which are, I think the two most valuable things are their time and their expertise. Beyond that, however, we also have to be cognizant that a lot of these academic professionals don't have the finances to travel for 2 or 3 weeks. Unfortunately, the education sector in a lot of countries is still underpaid. So in order to attract the best talent, we also raise the funds and pay for their programs. So they don't receive a salary, but we cover all expenses regarding accommodation, transportation, their visa, and insurance. So travel insurance and health insurance is covered, which means that the people who volunteer for us and who are selected to go in country don't need to worry about being out of pocket, and can also enjoy that time to do their own research. So it really works with researchers who want to go to a new country where perhaps they don't have an established network. They'll go in exchange for teaching. All their accommodation and flight is paid for, but they also have a base and an on-the-ground network. So for research purposes, it can be really useful. And so it's a benefit, it's a mutually beneficial situation. The volunteers go in, they have an immersive experience, they come out of there having learned so much about a different culture and new teaching techniques very often. The students on the ground get access to a very different set of knowledge and often very different pedagogical teaching style. And also we found that it's been fantastic for building a network for professors on the ground to learn from the professors who are coming in. It's not just about the students. There's a lot of osmosis, and we found that the students we've taught, for example, in Uganda, have come out saying, actually, my teacher has changed since last year because they're asking us more questions. They're trying to be more engaging. Their approach to teaching has been quite transformed. So where are we right now? So, well, right now, unfortunately, nowhere because of COVID. But before the epidemic, we were teaching in Sierra Leone, which is our flagship program. Initially in Bo and in Freetown, and now we're mostly in in Freetown. We teach in Uganda at African Rural University, which is an all-women's program that I think is really innovative. In fact, I think they've got a lot of scientific achievements going on there. They obviously do a lot of rural development, agriculture, and the teachers and the students there are just quite impressive. We also teach in Thailand at 𝗔𝗯cie𝘂𝘁 University. We've been going there, I think it's 4 years now. We teach in India, specifically in Lucknow, and in India it's also both at all women colleges, in Avad College and in 𝗔𝗯cie𝘂𝘁𝘁 Muslim Girls College. So I'd say right now about 60% of our students are women, which I think is a fantastic achievement for development, and says a lot about the demographics of people who are getting education. So that's also quite encouraging. We have also been to Senegal, thank you to Lecturers Without Borders, and Yubov, who created that connection. And in Senegal, it was a little bit of a different model because we were teaching students in high school, but we were teaching specifically science students. And we decided to teach them, or to give them a course in social entrepreneurship, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you are all the scientists, but what we do share in research is a desire to solve problems. And so what we did with entrepreneurship is looking, especially social entrepreneurship, is looking at problems in the community and figuring out what needs to be done to solve them. And then going beyond that, how to communicate that idea. So how to describe it, how to pitch it. And the students came up with very innovative projects. And we found the same thing happening in our universities in India or in Uganda, where we taught courses that were entrepreneurship based. It really is a very wholesome 360 kind of project. You cover so much and the students' skills are really put to test. So normally in 2020, we were also going to go to Nigeria and Laos. As you can imagine, that has been put on hold temporarily. I'm going to be optimistic and say that we can go in 2021. But in the meantime, I'll have to admit, we have been extremely busy. So while I started by sharing our first project, which is face-to-face, short courses with local partners on the ground, we've also adapted to do more than that. So we have a think tank without borders. So let me send you that link over here. So the think tank project is run by Miriam Ruddy, and it is about knowledge sharing. I'm sure, just like me, you have experienced a lot of paywalls when trying to get access to books, articles, information, and obviously software. So do our partners in different universities. A lot of them can't afford Microsoft. I mean, it's an annual payment, which is quite consequential for a lot of people. However, sometimes all you need to do is point them towards something like OpenOffice. And just by giving them access to free software, it's like opening a door. And it might seem very basic, but that kind of knowledge exchange can go very far. So in our think tank, we publish papers normally around pedagogy or higher education. Personally, we wrote, my favorite is one on the impact of Ebola on higher education in Sierra Leone, which was written by a public health expert who was teaching for us in Sierra Leone. But it was a collaboration between Yano, so the lecturer, and one of the students who she had been teaching in Sierra Leone. So the student also became a co-author, which shows how the partnerships can go beyond just teaching. Think Tank also organizes conferences. So last month we organized a conference on teaching during COVID in higher education. And we had, I think, 7 professors from Colombia to Thailand and 5 university students, likewise from around the world. And they were sharing what works and what doesn't work. And out of that came a report that we published, obviously videos if you want to catch up on the conference. And personally, for my preparation of courses in September, it has been eye-opening. I know I'm going to change a lot of things and be a much better teacher because I've learned from all the people that I was listening to, the students and the professors during that conference. And finally, the last thing that the think tank also does is, in conjunction with the main program, is career development. It's again about knowledge exchange and making information relevant to people, freely available. And so if you look at the career development section, and I think you can see it if you go a bit higher, Lyubov, there you go, career development, it's got its own on the right. There we go, career development. And most of these are written by Ellie Danak, who is a career advisor at the University of Edinburgh. And these cover things such as CV writing, how to apply to a job, interview skills, but also online courses for people who couldn't afford to go to university, who want to supplement their education, or whose teachers perhaps are not as inspiring. It also offers information that is specific to each country. So right now we're doing how to look for jobs in Uganda, that has been published. We just published the one in India. We have one on Thailand. So specific to each country that we go to. Obviously, the CV writing is great for an Anglophone public, but the same kind of CV wouldn't work, for example, if you're applying to jobs in France. So right now, one of the big initiatives that we're doing is translating the entire website in French, and creating career development posts that are relevant to a Francophone audience. And this will open to us so many more students and professionals in Francophone Africa, which is something we really want to do. And then obviously later on, the next step would be to do the same thing in Spanish. And finally, the third big initiative that we're just launching, and I would like to invite all of you to take a look at this, because I think in the immediate future, this might be the most relevant to you. If you go to online.prowibo.com, we are creating a platform for ad hoc guest lecturers to give courses, well, I guess during the entire COVID crisis. The reason we created this is because the professors who spoke to us at our conference said that when they invited guest lecturers into their online classroom, the students were more engaged. It fills a knowledge gap where a professor cannot, or perhaps doesn't have the time or doesn't have the knowledge to cover a specific topic. Rather than leaving it out of the syllabus, you can now invite a guest online, they're all volunteers, to come into your classroom for 40 minutes, plus Q&A, and fill that gap. We've been developing this in conjunction with LSE Ideas, with Unilag, who were very supportive, University of Lagos, very supportive in this initiative. And also it's been led by George Richards, who's one of our professors, former professors and volunteer, and works at University of Edinburgh in the United States. So it's really a transatlantic, international initiative, and we're trying to bring as many volunteers as possible who would be willing to teach to students around the world. And it's just one at a time, 1 hour. We're gonna monitor it to make sure that nobody is overwhelmed. And again, it's part of this whole initiative of democratization of higher education, that people can have access to inspiring, outstanding lectures, that where there's a gap, we can fill it, because at the end of the day, academics share a passion for teaching, a desire to share their research, and an interest in really having an impact and improving the world around them. And I think that's why we created Professors Without Borders, and why you've created your own organizations. You want to have an impact, you want to share learning, you want to inspire and empower students. We do this mostly in higher education, because there is a gap there, a very big gap. Universities in a lot of countries could honestly be replaced by Coursera and online learning, but skills building still needs people and still needs specialists. And I think that's something that Professors Without Borders is offering. It's also key for sustainable development. And I think our focus on women being more than 50% of our programs is also key to having a lasting impact in all of the countries that we go to. Finally, I just want to say a few things about the importance of the science community. So I already mentioned that we were organizing courses on entrepreneurship in Senegal for scientists. There is clearly a demand for science experts to share their knowledge around the world. I really like what Lecturers Without Borders have done on their website. I think there's access to videos and this displaying teaching which is accessible and making science accessible is fantastic, and I'd like to see more of that in higher education. Right now, for our face-to-face teaching, most of our courses have to be pretty basic because we assume no prior knowledge. It is an introduction to a topic. That doesn't have to stay that way, but often we come to a class and we have to reinvent the entire syllabus because the students might be a lot better than we expected, or we might have a very big variation in learning style. So the teachers are highly adaptive, but right now most of our courses for PROWIBO.com, so face-to-face teaching, are intro classes. However, our online program would allow us to do things a lot more advanced and a lot more specialized and adapted to your particular expertise. I think for PhD students, it's also a great way to get experience in a market which sometimes is a bit overcrowded. I know in London, it's very hard to get a job just off the PhD with no teaching experience. So it can help with teaching experience. It also helps with networking and with advertising, research expertise on a platform that I think is going to be visited at least by a lot of other volunteers and hopefully by a lot of our partner institutions. And again, all of this is really created to democratize education, to create access to quality teachers wherever you are, and to inspire students and teachers alike. Teachers require inspiration. I think we get our energy off our students, and students who have that kind of experience with their teachers want to learn more. So, it's a synergy that really works, and Professors Without Borders is successful because it has attracted such inspiring teachers and researchers and professionals, because we don't only have teachers, we've also had professionals who perhaps would have liked to be a teacher but went into another profession, but still have so much to share and do that in a way that is very student focused and very giving. So we really appreciate that. So I'm really happy to answer any questions if you're interested to find out more about how Professors Without Borders works, from fundraising to recruiting to why we choose to do certain things. I'm happy to answer that. If you're interested in traveling, networking, and inspiring students, hopefully we'll be going back in, right now I'm thinking summer 2021, realistically, I think is the soonest we can go in. Summer also works because people tend to take holidays at that time, and a lot of universities in the West are shut, but a lot of the ones that we go to in India, for example, or in Thailand are still operational. And if you're interested in volunteering for the online program, I really want to build the science community there. I think there's going to be a huge demand, and we're just getting started. We'll be launching this to the public in September. So, early movers and all that. So thank you very much for hearing me out, and let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, so now, thanks so much, Caroline. I guess that we will now then start the questions first, right? And then afterwards discussions. So please let me know in the chat or anywhere if you have any questions, because I do have
questions.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, I have questions that Caroline just announced. Funding, recruiting, how to decide what to do next. I mean, these are super crucial questions. I'm very curious how you go about this.
So could you repeat the last one?
How to decide what to do next? Like what I was very amazed. You have many different directions. It's fascinating. How did you come up with those? How do you know if you're doing the right thing? Do you do some testing? Do you stop? Did you ever stop doing something because you figured it wasn't getting enough? It wasn't giving impact. It wasn't getting positive feedback, or just no feedback.
Okay, yeah, these are really important questions, I think, for honestly any startup. So funding's a really difficult one. We've been very lucky to have people believe in our vision, and all of our funding so far has been driven by individuals or by private funds. And Tessie, my co-founder, has been the biggest drive behind that. Now that we have been given charity status in the UK, we are also putting together a number of applications for fundraising. And we also hosted private events for these private donors. The reality is...
Can you share what kind of private events these are?
Drinks and networking events. So it's been, yeah, mostly networking events. So we invite select individuals to a nice venue or to one of our homes. So I hosted one of these in London, and we make the food ourselves. We display all the information that we cover. We have teachers and students come and testify, and we ask people to be generous. I think that the funding has not been as successful as I would have liked, principally because everybody in our organization is a volunteer, and we all have a full-time job in addition to what we're doing. However, the biggest expenditure for organizations is paying salaries. And we don't pay any salaries. Everybody's a volunteer. And if you can see what we've built, you know, from the website to the annual report, you know, all the admin, everything's been done by volunteers who have really committed a lot of time. And I wouldn't even try to quantify that in pounds or euros or dollars. I think it would be really, really significant. It's people's generosity and their time and their talent that has led us to build, you know, the 3 branches of PROWIBO. We've also, however, had a fantastic partnership with Carrier, which is a luxury travel agency. And last year they covered all of our flights around the world. And did the bookings for us, which took out a lot of logistics headache, and allowed us to recruit more professors and send them further. You wouldn't believe our budget for sending everybody. Let's see, last year we had 5 different countries. Sorry, off the top of my head, I can't remember the numbers of teachers, but you know, between 15 and 20 teachers when it went around the world. And it costs us under £25,000. And that was our entire operating budget. We didn't have to spend more than that, and we still had more in reserve. So we keep the costs really low. It's basically backpack volunteering, with a great team of people who've been handpicked. The flights now are covered. We don't have immediate funding needs, which is why we've been able to expand and not worry about the lockdown or any funding cuts. If we want to expand to new countries, we will need to raise more money. And if we want to have a permanent staff, we're going to eventually need to pay them. And I think that's where it's going to be important to either build an endowment or receive some grants. And I'm optimistic that we should be able to get some grants, because we are receiving fantastic advice from people who are either grant writers or actual donors. And we've built a board of trustees also around those skills that we needed.
How big is your team that you said, the volunteers who do everything on the behind the stage?
So if you were to go on About Us, Lyubov, can you go on About Us? And under team?
Is it constant, or you work sometimes with like project-based also cases?
So it's a bit of both. I'm constant. Miriam has been with us for quite a long time. Colin has been with us from the beginning. And then we also have the board of trustees, a board of advisor, a number of research fellows. So I think you're under research fellows here, but we also have, if you go under team, you'll see it's much more concise. We just recruited a finance director. Again, she's a volunteer. Richard Adams, who built our entire website and manages our communication, you know, again, a volunteer. I'd say at any given time, we have 15 people around the world that we can call on and who will respond really fast. Some people have permanent responsibilities. For other things, it's project driven. I'd also like to thank our interns. We have a very robust internship program that we run mostly with Richmond University, but not only, we've also had interns from Regent's University. So the places where I've worked and my colleagues have worked. And so these are students who actually get credit for their work with Professors Without Borders, so it's built into their program, or they want to get a little bit of experience during the summertime or even during the school year to build up their CV, or to decide if this is something that they want to do in the future. You know, Miriam, for example, started as an intern, Colin started as an intern, and very quickly they get a lot of responsibility. They're good, they learn a lot, they get a lot of feedback. We approach this internship experience also as an educational opportunity. So me as an educator, I oversee them as an educator, not as a boss. We're very We're very flat hierarchically and collaborate completely as a team. We don't pay for office space. Everything is remote. It has been remote from the beginning. Because we're a charity, we get all of our software for free from Google Suite, because if you're a charity, you can get all the tech. So really, you know, I want to raise funds so that we can expand and so I can keep people permanently who deserve to be paid for their work. But this can run for a very long time with very little money, to answer the funding question. We're flexible. I think it's important. We're quite resilient. I think as long as I'm alive, and same with Richard, actually, we need him alive too. So I think that answers your question for funding. It's a difficult one. It's very contact driven. Who can help us? Who can advise us?
So was it mostly through personal contacts, you'd say, the initial funders and advisors?
Contacts and friends of contacts. So I have a 1 or 2 degree separation. And I think having Tessie on board has been very consequential for that. But also luck of the draw, you know, that Richard, who, as I said, does all our comms and is now the chairman of the board of trustees, I met him on a train. He's just an incredible person, and you know, that's just luck. It's being open and parking.
I think to this question of Victoria about the funding, right? Because quite often organizations which are global, they actually do have issues with funding because they are just too global for local funds. So we were often, with lecturers, we often were having this problem also, that nobody from either country was able to fund us until we found very global foundation which would help. Yeah. So
it depends what you need your funding for. Was this to cover trips?
Well, for lecturers, we do not cover the trips because we do organize it at the places where the conferences work, right? So for us, the main funding was actually to pay people who would, for example, raise the database for schools, right? For example, the project which we organized with you in Senegal, right? It was in Senegalese science club. And in order to find it and to keep contact with them at the first place, we actually were like, we needed to have some people who would work locally with some people. But at the same time, also coming back to the question of Victoria, right, for general running association, I'm always impressed when you manage to have such an organization, big organization running on help of people who, like, for example, volunteers or interns, right? So that's why we were asking this, right? Because in our previous workshop, Victoria was explaining about 15x4 organization, and it was impressive because actually it is volunteers based, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And so that's impressive when such big things can be grown up, right, from something which is more right, volunteers based, and not that you're working somewhere at big corporation paid for as full-time job. You do it because you want it, but yeah. But at which moment you started to be also having some need of really full employed people? Because I'm asking that because some people here, for example, right, they have their own projects, and I see that yeah, we have here some people from like from Kenya, right, who run their own projects, maybe local ones, but they are sometimes in need of growth. And at which time you actually would say it's a time to apply for some big funding or for search for it?
It's a very difficult question to answer honestly without being controversial, because our success has been due to interns and volunteers who have given us time that they had. Some of them have given us evenings or weekends. Some of them have worked a lot more than that. Those who have worked a lot more than that have done so because they didn't have another job. The reality is that it's very difficult to get another job if you don't have work experience, especially in the United Kingdom. And with the current crisis, it's not getting any easier. So to a large extent, I'd say that we are working because some people have chosen to get experience with us, knowing that we can't pay them right now. And I would like to be able to pay them for the work that they do, because it's the kind of work that honestly deserves to be paid, and they should be getting good jobs elsewhere if those jobs existed and gave them that chance. On the other hand, what we do is I work very closely with everyone on my team to make sure that their CVs are updated, that their cover letters are updated. When we have opportunities that we see, we share them widely. And if there's any connection that we can give them, we will do that as much as possible. I would like to have the funds to reward them for their commitment and their hard work. At this time, we haven't prioritized that, and that's a little bit of a pity. I think personally, I need to put a lot more work into fundraising, and that's the top thing on our agenda come September. I think it's also possible now that we're a charity. In the UK, that means there's tax benefits and a little better for fulfilling some of the categories of these grant applications, and for credibility's sake. So I think we're going to have a better time looking for independent funds and also private donors. They really do like that charity thing. Even though it hasn't changed how we operate, it gives us access to a lot of free things. And it was really hard to get, to be honest. It was quite a robust process.
Yeah, thanks.
So
I can totally relate to what you say, Caroline. I think also for us, we exist for 3 years. We've done over 30 different events, and our budget was even lower than yours, but this is also because we are local, so we didn't have to travel, or mostly we didn't have to travel. But it's always a trade-off that you have to do. You either invest your time into making things work, or you invest your time in fundraising. Or then the third option is to get someone who will be fully dedicated to this. And that's of course not so easy, because this is not a trivial job to do.
Yeah. Yes.
I agree. I think we've been able to do it. Well, for me, as an academic, I've been able to carve the time out, and I've chosen to do that. I think if I was a business professional, I probably would have built the whole thing as a social enterprise. And there are ways to derive, I don't even want to say a profit, but possibly even a profit from the kind of things that we do, either by making volunteers pay. That's, the gap year projects is something that happens very much so. We've chosen not to do that so that we can pick talent, not just people who can afford it, but that's a business model. We could sell the courses to private universities or private individuals. That's not really something that we've had to push at this point. But there's a lot of ways that we can spin out social enterprise models from the kind of thing we do, whether it's career development, recruitment, or teaching. That's a possibility. And perhaps that's going to be the next way to go if we want to be sustainable and resilient long term. Right now, the choice has been to focus on impact and prove what we're capable of doing in a way that's indiscriminate. But the realities of the market might push us in a different direction. Yeah. And at least I can say that we can adapt to that if we have to.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and thanks for explaining. Are there any questions? I mean, probably
I have two more. I had two more, right? Before that. So
me too. But yeah, let's ask before indeed you go forward. With that, if there are any other like really urgent questions. I saw that Fulgence also joined, Eugenia, and yeah, so Mahendra and Anna. But are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question too.
Go ahead.
Victoria, can you go ahead or I go ahead first?
No, go ahead. I mean, we will do a round, right? We asked first one.
All right.
Yes.
It's all right. I'm very happy to be with you, and thank you, Caroline, for the presentation. I'm just gonna give you a quick introduction about myself. I give it in the beginning, but it wasn't like very completed. My name is Mohamed Kamal. I'm a PhD student in like University of Technology. It's here in China. My background is like material science. I'm doing my research on polymer and material science. I'm also executive member of Next Online Forum, if you heard about it. It's It's a sort of
Sure.
organization working in Stein Forum, if you heard about it.
Nice. Where it will be next time?
Stein Forum, yeah.
No,
It's,
where it will be? Will it be online? The next one?
No, it's actually a sort of organization, basically founded by Neil Tork. He's a physicist, and it's mainly working in it's in Africa, but we're having this sort of different programs. One of them is like, we'll call it the Global Gathering, and there is several programs. Maybe I give you the link of the
Sure.
yeah. So I'm actually responsible in the community. We have the community of scientists, and I'm responsible for the resource secretary in the community of scientists. I'm also organizer of Pan-African robotic competition. It's actually an annual robotic competition. We host this, like competition in different countries every year. So we're supposed to have the last version of the competition in Rwanda, but unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 situation, we couldn't cover it. So this is a very quick next Einstein Forum. Yes, exactly. So we have different kind of activities, and we have a very abundant and robust community of scientists. And one of the main activities that we do is the called NEF Global Gathering, which gather scientists around the world. And you can look just in the website for more information about that. So my question for Caroline is that actually, like, do you have this sort of like, because I've seen you working in several countries, like what kind of, what is exactly the guideline for you to work in specific country and not working there? If there's like any sort of specification for that, or it's just about the situation on or the availability of the volunteers in these countries? The other thing is, what is your openness for partnerships and this kind of things? Are you like open for partnerships with organizations around the world, or like maybe, yeah, what kind of guides in that concern also? So these are my questions for you.
All right, thank you very much, Mohammed, and congratulations for the work that you're doing. It sounds like you're having a huge impact, so that's really inspiring. So how do we choose where we go? There's three principal things. One is got to be safe for our volunteers. I don't want to send anybody to a war zone if I can't guarantee their security to a reasonable extent. We're not going there. We're too small to take those kind of risks, and a lot of our volunteers also have families and things like that. So right now we go to countries where there's a certain amount of stability to allow us to do the without having to evacuate. We look to political situations very closely, and I guess that's where my background as a political analyst comes in quite usefully. I can do a risk evaluation and pretend sometimes that I'm an oracle with my students. Safe. The second one, we have to be invited. We work in partnership with the universities that we go to. We bring in the teachers, but we're not going to pay for a classroom. We're not going to get, there's no money that exchanges hands. So classrooms for that's really important. If it's not country, so from the community. So it's really important. The university has to be open. And we found some fantastic things. The university, Srinagar University in Thailand, they've offered us housing, so we don't have to pay for housing in the country. So that's, the partnership's gone even further. It doesn't have to be that way, but there's this idea of an exchange. We're giving them something for free, and they really appreciate it and want to make it as easy as possible for us. So that partnership is really important. It's got to be free, so it's got to be a free access. It's got to be on invitation. It's got to be fairly safe. And I think also they need to share our idea of, or at least our ideal of being accessible. one partner asked me if they could have exclusive use of PROWIBO in their country, and that was not going to be a partnership that was going to work. We want to go to as many places as possible, and nobody should be getting political points because of it. That's not the point. And then in terms of openness to partnerships, absolutely. We want to be working with people who share our values and who can help us make a bigger impact in higher education or in education in general. So definitely up for going to more countries. That's what I was talking about with expansion. We want to go to more places. We want to affect more, impact more students, inspire more students. I have quite a lot of volunteers from around the world. So I'm very pleased with the caliber of the people we've been able to attract. I would like to make use of more volunteers locally. So for example, in Sierra Leone, we've had teachers, actually professionals who have come to teach with us. I'm thinking of Manal, who is a professional in the sciences and came to give a class on public health to nurses and midwives. And she's from Sierra Leone. And I thought that was fantastic to use local resources that wouldn't otherwise have this opportunity to teach. So we'd like to use more of local resources, more of the diaspora also, having an inspiring person from Sierra Leone living in America coming back and saying, okay, let me share with you what I've got. That's also part of the learning experience. It's bridging the divides, it's exposing students to something different, and offering something that they wouldn't otherwise get in their home institution. So if that's something that we can do with another organization, we don't own the, and if whoever we're partnering with is happy to share those two things, a partnership that can work.
Okay, thank you for. I'm happy. Like I asked about the partnership questions because actually this is one of the important thing that we're really trying to establish right now, and I think it would be a very good opportunity if we could like find some ground together. Because in NEF we have more than like 45 ambassadors. They scattered all over the African continent. So and they're like champion in their fields. Just adding another question, exactly, if there's like any sort of maybe your teaching courses, are they like related to particular kind of science or STEM education, or it's just like general? There is any sort of specification in that? I mean, like, is it about science or it's just about other? Like, did you get my question?
I think I got it. So first of all,
Yeah.
I sent my email into the chat, so feel free to connect with me separately. I'd be happy to continue any conversation
Okay.
on a one-on-one. That's very happy to continue this. Then in terms of what we teach, and actually this also answers a bit Victoria's question on recruiting. There's two ways to recruit. One, I can send out a global, calling for volunteers. And it doesn't have to be a specific course. But when I ask people to apply, obviously I would like to get to see what kind of experience they have. But I asked them to put together a short teaching statement. How would they teach what they teach and why? I'm not interested in a cover letter of their experience. That's covered in their CV. And when I want to know what they're teaching, I really want to hear what skills my students are going to be gaining from your class. What is the added value? And if you're telling me it's knowledge, that's not really what I need to know for the in-person class, because we're not going on the ground at this point, and I hope never, to replace teachers or learning that is already happening. Most students, they have their math classes, they have their science classes, they have their politics classes. We're going to bring something that's a little bit different, which is skills focused. The knowledge is there to develop skills in our programs. We're not going to threaten anyone's livelihoods by saying we can do something better than them. We want to do something different. So if in your class, the students are going to learn how to build a robot, that's great. I want to know why it's important, how they're going to learn it, what skills are going to be coming out of that. The robot isn't the end. The end product isn't the robot. It's about problem solving and teamwork and communicating ideas. These are the skills that I'll be interested in seeing coming out. They're also relevant for the professional sector. Learning for its own sake is great if you have that luxury, but a lot of our students don't. They need to learn and prepare for a job. So it's got to be quite realistic. So I don't mind what they're learning in terms of science. I just want to know that they're learning skills. And if a course, for example, is too advanced for the students that we're teaching, they wouldn't be able to develop those skills. So you have to show that you're really flexible and can adjust to any student that ends up in your classroom, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're teaching, it matters what they're learning. And then I guess to follow up on that recruitment, I'll also add, a lot of it is word of mouth. Networks makes a very big difference. Sometimes we have put out calls for lecturers, and we've done that using social media, our website. The LSE Careers website has been really fantastic. So we also work with academic partners. And what I've found is some people have found our call for applicants on the LSE Careers website and then sent that on to other people. And sometimes that's where we've received the most fantastic lecturers just by word of mouth. And where they can become recommended, that's an added benefit for me, because sometimes I can't interview them in person. And if I know somebody who can vouch for them, it just guarantees the quality that much more, and I'm taking less of a risk on them. We haven't always had perfectly workable relationships. Every organization has its hurdles. But overall, I'd say that the kind of people who want to volunteer with us really want to give back, really want to educate and inspire, and are very open to doing it in a way that will have the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you
very
so much. And thank you also for presenting yourself, Mohammed, because I mean, I heard, and we also worked with some people from Next Time Forum who were organizing some conference. I don't remember in which exactly country was it, but I think
I think it's Zambia, not Zambia, Tanzania.
Maybe because we had also some people, but it's great that you're all there here. It's incredible that you joined. Thank you so much. Who has other questions? Because I know that Victoria has two, and some other people, maybe somebody has some questions, Nasia or anyone. Otherwise, we will go back to Eugenia or to Victoria.
One of my questions was mostly answered by Caroline already, like recruitment, how do they get the partners, universities, how do they get teachers? I think also she already covered the volunteers and the interns. Interns is something really cool. I'm wondering if we can establish this as well for us. Maybe we should figure out how it works in Germany.
Victoria, if you're interested on the interns, the university, Richmond University that we work with, is an internship program. That's where the students get the credit from. And I think especially with COVID, they're very interested in finding new partners so that the students can do remote internships. So if it's something you'd like to explore, I can put you in touch with them.
That would be great, actually. That would be brilliant. Thank you.
They need a lot of supervision and a lot of feedback, because it can be something as basic as writing an email professionally that they might never have done before. So you really need to supervise them. It's not, sometimes it's more work than working without this.
I can imagine, but at least we should try and see how it also works for us, because I think we have some tasks that need to be done and can be done remotely. Cool, that would be nice.
And yeah, go ahead.
My last question was about how do you decide what exactly to do if you had something that didn't work out, how you figured this out?
I think we have some things that work better than others. So we started off by testing our summer school model in Sierra Leone in the first year, and it really worked. It could have not worked, but the summer school model, it's been tried and tested by other organizations. We just reversed it. So I think that was quite, that was going to work, and we continue to build on that, and it's been very successful. I don't know if the online platform is going to be as successful, but from everything I'm hearing, it has a huge amount of potential, even to be a disruptor. It fills a gap. I think we're going to get a lot of volunteers who want to help fill that gap, especially right now with everyone being allowed to give back and volunteer in the way that you can. It can be really impactful. So I've got a very, very strong hopes for that. It will probably be as successful as the investment we put into it. So I need to advertise it widely, make sure that we get the right kind of volunteers, that we select the right, that nobody tries to abuse them, in the sense that you don't have one volunteer who's being contacted for a lecture every single day. No, they tell us what their availability is and how many they want to do, and that's it. We're not there to take advantage. So I need to understand each volunteer and follow up with them what it is they expect and what they can commit to, and absolutely respect that. Some things that worked a little bit less well, I would say that our think tank program is probably the hardest to maintain, because it requires probably a lot more time than we're willing to put into it. Specifically, I would like us to publish more papers around pedagogical research, try and get more things available for free to our partners and the public. But we haven't put enough time chasing the partnerships, convincing people to make things available, or convincing people to write papers that they're not going to get academic credit for. And this is all online, practically self-publishing, although we do our own peer review process for quality maintenance. So those things could be better. I think our last conference was a very big success. I was really proud of my team and grateful to everyone who contributed. And it also entered a very strong community. The professors who came on board and the students, they gave their time. They stayed on for 3 hours of an online conference. I mean, I've been to online conferences, but I haven't stayed 3 hours. I was really impressed. 50 participants for most of that time. It was an interesting topic. And I think choosing a topic that's interesting and relevant and pitching it to the right audience is important. And then, how to expand, or how to know what to do next. I'd say expansion is the next big question. Where are we going to go next? I think we're growing slowly, and I've been told by a lot of people that we're growing very slowly. I've had 2 kids in the meantime since we started this, so I don't mind growing slowly.
Now I am even more impressed, Caroline. That's just too impressive.
Yes.
No, they're good ones. Like I could have gotten unlucky. They're really cool kids. But yeah, so I'm happy to grow slowly and organically, and I can't understress the importance of network and personal relationships in making PROWIBO become what it has been. It has been the luck of knowing great people who have believed in the idea. I didn't have to sell it. They really adhered to they've had good higher education experiences, and they want to make sure that others can get that too. They see the value for development and for personal development. So I don't need to sell the idea very much to people. And so really, talking to them, getting a lot of opinions before we do something new has helped us, I think, avoid a lot of issues that could have gone wrong. And possibly, eventually when we have money and I can outsource things to people and have them specialize in different things, we'll be able to expand faster. But that's also where a lot of mistakes are going to be made. So I'm going to have to let go of a lot of things for that to happen. And that will only be possible once we have enough money to recruit really good people who I can hold accountable. And then actually that's the problem with volunteers, holding everyone accountable. With volunteers, they want to do well. Feedback is hard for everybody, but if there's no financial motivator, you have to find something else.
So what do you think works the best to motivate your volunteers?
I think you've got to sell them an idea. Now I'm talking about selling an idea. They have to have a vested interest in the outcome. So do they really believe in what they're doing, or are they just trying to get experience? I think you need to have both. You need to get something back from it, which is why we work so much with feedback, with empowering people with responsibilities so that they feel that they're learning and it's something they can put on their CV, and help them put it on their CV in a way that matters, not just a line, but a line that means something. So it's empowering them, inspiring them, educating them. We have to working with our team the same way we'll work with our students.
That's beautiful. I wanted to ask about COVID times, because it's a normal question, right, to ask during these strange times, because in lectures, for example, Without Borders, we had quite some experience of transferring a bit, right, to online education also. Did you also have the same?
You know, I think every experience is what you make of it. I think we have been able to adapt to a new situation very successfully. We work with people who are very computer literate and very happy to share what they know with each other. We've always been working remotely, so you know, I could be in London or in Brussels. You know, Colin is in the United States. I never see him in person anymore. Gabriel's been working from Uruguay. I haven't seen him in ages. Sipim's in Thailand. I can't see her right now. But we've really communicated really well. Everyone's had to go online. So, you know, we're working on the same platform as everybody else all around the world. The idea of creating an online platform just for guest lecturers has come out of the obstacles that we have encountered in teaching in our day jobs. So I don't think it's been a problem for PROWIBO. We've remained active, we've adapted, we've created new things, which we wouldn't have done otherwise. You know, we probably wouldn't have created that online platform. There was no demand for it in the same way. People weren't as available to volunteer for it. You know, access to online technology, I mean, I need to understand that for the students that I'm teaching every day. Mm-hmm. So once I figured that out, I can teach it to other people. And if I can't figure it out, we have a fantastic network who can help me understand what's best. And that's what the conference was so important for, understanding what works for the students and what the obstacles are to teaching online. And actually the most important one for me was technology fatigue. Everyone kept talking about how exhausting it is to be online all the time, exactly. Whether it's the teachers or the students. And we need to talk about that. Mm-hmm. You know, in terms of mental health, in terms of stimulation, in terms of engagement, and in terms of a successful educational opportunity. It can't all be online. We need to get the students offline and doing things that matter to them also offline. And that's really hard to do in the age of technology.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is already so much of the input that I would like to actually ask for a last round of questions. Unless someone doesn't have them, we can close the official part and open unofficial part where you can kind of, you know, chat a little bit. I don't know how much time you have, Caroline, now, but anyway, we will thank you all for your time, for your energy, which you shared with us. And yeah, we hope that you will come also again at some point to share more results and of the inside information, because this is very valuable for people who do, right? That's why we wanted to invite you, and very happy that you joined.
Well, thank you so much, and for inviting me, and also for, you know, partnering with us and sharing your resources. Yeah, the thing we did in Senegal really opened a new opportunity, and that was I'm hoping we'll do more of that. So thank you very much.
That was great, and I'm happy that you're now linked with 54, with Victoria, with others, right? So you can actually have even more, right? Like a network force.